Every individual life is a masterpiece designed by the Creator. Nothing in your journey happens by coincidence. Your trials, your tears, and your triumphs are not isolated events. They are intentional strokes on the canvas of God's greater plan. When you face challenges, remember this: God is not punishing you. He is positioning you, not just for your growth, but for the instruction of those around you. There are moments when you wonder, why me? But let me tell you, the question is not why me, but who needs to see this, because someone's breakthrough is tied to your faithfulness in the fire. God does not randomly select people. He handpicks vessels that can carry both the weight of his lessons and the overflow of his blessings. When you go through trials, it's not just about your story, it's about the lessons embedded within it. Someone is learning patience by watching how you endure. Someone is learning forgiveness by witnessing your grace. Someone is learning trust because they see you standing firm on God's promises. Think of Moses. God used his reluctance, his speech impediment, and even his failures to teach a nation about leadership and reliance on divine provision. What if Moses had said, "I am not the one"? His excuses would have robbed millions of a lesson in deliverance. Pain is one of life's greatest mysteries, yet it is often the most powerful teacher. While you cry in the midnight hour, someone else is learning how to pray by seeing your faith in action. While you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, someone else is realizing that they too can fear no evil. Your pain is a paradox. It hurts you, but it heals someone else. Consider Job. God allowed his suffering not because he had abandoned him, but because he trusted him. Job's perseverance became a lesson in unwavering faith for generations. Imagine being so trusted by God that he uses your life as a benchmark for others to follow. The Apostle Paul once said, "You are a letter from Christ, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God. Your life is a living epistle. Read by those around you." People may never open a Bible, but they will observe how you navigate life. They will see how you handle rejection, betrayal, and loss, and through you, they will glimpse the nature of God. Every decision you make, every response you give becomes a chapter in the story God is writing through you. Are you writing a story of faith, resilience, and trust? Or are you writing a story of fear and doubt? Faith is not real until it is tested. Diamonds are only formed under pressure, and your faith only shines brightest when it is under fire. When you hold on to God in the midst of adversity, people around you take notice. Your faith becomes a beacon, showing them that God is dependable, trustworthy, and present in the storm. Think about Daniel in the lion's den. His faith was tested, but it wasn't just about him. The king who had thrown him into the den declared afterward, "The God of Daniel is the living God. Your faith under fire doesn't just deliver you, it changes the hearts of those watching." Some struggles feel so personal, so private, that you think no one sees. But even in those moments, God is working. People may not see the depth of your pain, but they see the grace with which you carry it. They may not know the battles you fight in your mind, but they witness the peace that radiates from your soul. And this is the beauty of God's work. He takes the invisible struggles of your heart and turns them into visible evidence of his grace. Your silent battles become loud testimonies to his goodness. Endurance is a language the world understands. It speaks louder than sermons and resonates deeper than speeches. When you keep going despite the odds, people take note. They see God's strength working through your weakness, and it gives them courage to keep moving forward in their own lives. Perseverance is contagious. It spreads hope, ignites faith, and cultivates resilience in those who observe it. They may never tell you, but your persistence is the reason someone else didn't give up. When God redeems your situation, he doesn't just restore what was lost, he transforms it into something greater. And that transformation is not just for you, it is a witness to others of what God can do. Your life becomes evidence of his power to heal, to restore, and to elevate. Think of Peter, who denied Jesus 3 times. Yet God transformed him into the rock upon which the church was built. His failure was not the end, it was a lesson in grace, restoration, and purpose. The world is God's classroom, and He doesn't need walls, chalkboards, or lesson plans. He lives your life to teach His truths. When people watch you navigate life's complexities, they are sitting in God's classroom learning about love, grace, faith, and resilience. And let me tell you, this God is the ultimate teacher. He will use every moment of your life, your highs, your lows, your mistakes, and your victories to reveal His character to those who are watching. Every moment of your life is part of a carefully orchestrated plan woven together by the hands of the Creator. Nothing about your existence is random. There are no accidents in the kingdom of God. From the moment you were conceived, your life was mapped out with precision and purpose. Your joys and your sorrows, your victories and your trials, each one is a thread in the tapestry of God's divine blueprint. When God created you, He placed within you gifts, talents, and abilities uniquely tailored to fulfill a specific role in His kingdom agenda. You are not here by chance, you are here by design. Every experience you encounter, whether it feels good or painful, is part of a larger narrative that God is unfolding. He doesn't simply allow events to happen, He orchestrates them to bring about His ultimate plan, not just for you, but for those connected to your life. Think about this, a blueprint is detailed, intentional, and purposeful. Architects don't draw lines without reason. Every mark serves a function. In the same way, every moment of your life, every challenge you face, every success you achieve has a purpose. Some moments may seem insignificant or even confusing, but when viewed through the lens of God's eternal perspective, they reveal a pattern of intentionality and divine strategy. Consider the story of Esther. She was an orphan, a nobody in the eyes of society. Yet, through a series of events that seemed ordinary, even tragic, God positioned her as a queen. Why? Because her life was part of His kingdom agenda. In the moment of crisis, when her people were at risk of annihilation, Mordecai reminded her of the divine blueprint, and who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. Esther's rise to the palace wasn't about her comfort or status. It was about fulfilling a greater purpose. Now think about your own life. There are times when you might wonder why certain things happen to you. Why did you lose that job? Why did that relationship fail? Why did you face that sickness, that betrayal, that setback? But here's the truth, nothing in your life is wasted. God is using every piece of your story to fulfill a purpose that is bigger than you. Your life serves His kingdom agenda, even when you cannot see it. Imagine an artist painting a masterpiece. Up close, the strokes might seem chaotic and meaningless, but when you step back, you see the beauty of the completed work. That's what your life is like in God's hands. What feels like chaos to you is part of a perfect design to Him. God's blueprint also includes the people you are meant to impact. Your life is connected to others in ways you may not even realize. Sometimes the decisions you make or the trials you endure are not just about you, they are about the lives you're called to influence. Just as Esther's bravery saved an entire nation, your obedience to God's plan can ripple through generations, affecting people you may never meet. In Jeremiah 29:11, God says, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Notice that He doesn't say, "I'm figuring it out as I go." He already knows. The plan is already in place. Your job is not to understand every detail, but to trust the one who holds the blueprint. When you align yourself with God's plan, you unlock the power of purpose. Suddenly your life has meaning beyond the daily grind. You begin to see how even the smallest decisions are part of something much larger than yourself. The challenges that once seemed insurmountable become stepping stones to destiny because you recognize they were designed to strengthen you, refine you, and position you for what's next. So remember this, your life is not a series of disconnected moments. It is a divine blueprint drawn with love and precision by the master architect. Trust the process because the one who designed you has already written your victory into His plan. You are not merely existing, you are a vessel, an instrument carefully chosen and prepared by God to fulfill a specific role in His divine plan. When God looks at you, He doesn't just see an individual, He sees a conduit through which His lessons, His love, and His wisdom flow to others. Your life carries significance far beyond your own experiences, and your journey serves as a channel through which God reveals his truth to those around you. A vessel is designed with intention. It is shaped, molded, and refined to fulfill a purpose. In the same way, God shapes your life sometimes through trials, sometimes through blessings to prepare you for the work he has ordained for you. Just as a potter molds clay, God molds you not for your own sake alone, but so that others may see his handiwork and be drawn closer to him. Think about the vessels used in the Bible. The Ark of the Covenant was a vessel that carried God's presence. The jars of oil multiplied by Elisha became vessels of provision for a widow and her family. The alabaster jar, broken at Jesus' feet, became a vessel of worship and sacrifice. In each case, the vessel wasn't the focus, it was what the vessel carried that made the difference. And so it is with you. What God pours into your life is not meant to remain within you, it is meant to flow outward, impacting those around you. As a vessel of purpose, you are a carrier of God's lessons. People watch how you live, how you respond to challenges, and how you hold on to faith in difficult times. Your actions, your words, and even your silence can teach others about the character of God. When you forgive someone who has wronged you, you demonstrate God's grace. When you remain steadfast in a storm, you reveal God's faithfulness. When you love unconditionally, you show the world a glimpse of God's heart. Consider the life of Mary, the mother of Jesus. She was an ordinary woman, yet she became a vessel through which God brought salvation into the world. Her willingness to say, "May it be to me according to your word," allowed her to carry the greatest lesson of all, God's love for humanity. Mary's purpose was not just about her, it was about what she carried and how it would change the lives of countless others. Your purpose is no different. You may not feel extraordinary, but God has placed within you something that is. He has entrusted you with lessons, testimonies, and gifts that are meant to be shared. Your life is a living vessel, pouring out encouragement, wisdom, and hope to those who need it most. And just like any vessel, there are times when you may feel empty, broken, or inadequate. But remember this, a vessel is only as powerful as what it contains. God is the one who fills you, and when he does, you overflow with his goodness. Even in your brokenness, you can still be used. In fact, broken vessels often spill the most, allowing God's grace to flow even more freely through the cracks of your life. The Apostle Paul understood this when he said, "But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. Your role is not to be perfect, your role is to be available." God doesn't need flawless vessels, he needs willing ones. As a vessel of purpose, your life carries a ripple effect. You may not always see the impact you're having, but know that someone is watching. Someone is learning from your journey. Someone is finding hope because of your faithfulness. You may never know the full extent of your influence, but trust that God is using you in ways you cannot imagine. The beauty of being a vessel is that you don't have to generate the lessons yourself. Your job is simply to carry them, to be filled with God's wisdom, and to allow him to pour it out through you. This requires humility, surrender, and a willingness to let God have his way in your life. When you align yourself with his will, you become a powerful tool in his hands, shaping lives, changing hearts, and advancing his kingdom. So the next time you feel like your life is insignificant, remember you are not just living. You are a vessel, and through you, God's lessons flow to others. Your purpose is not about you. It is about what God is doing through you. Let him fill you, shape you, and use you, and watch as your life becomes a source of blessing and transformation for those around you. Pain is one of life's greatest enigmas. It's a reality that every person encounters, yet its purpose often eludes us. Why do we suffer? Why does life sometimes bring heartache, loss, and struggle? The answers may not always be clear, but one thing is certain: in the hands of God, pain is never wasted. It becomes a teaching tool, not only for you, but for those who are watching your journey. Pain has a way of exposing the depths of who we are. It reveals our vulnerabilities, tests our faith, and challenges our understanding of God's plan. But in those moments when we feel broken, God is quietly at work, using our trials as a platform to demonstrate his power and purpose. Your pain becomes a stage where God's grace, love, and faithfulness are displayed for others to see. Consider the story of Joseph in the Bible. He was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused and imprisoned. By any human standard, his pain seemed senseless. Yet through it all, God was orchestrating a greater plan. Joseph's trials were not just about him, they were about saving a nation. When Joseph eventually rose to power in Egypt, his life became a testimony of God's providence, teaching countless others that what was meant for evil, God can turn into good. Your own pain carries the same potential. It may feel isolating, but it is never just about you. People around you are paying attention to how you endure. They're watching how you respond when the storms of life come crashing down. When you cling to your faith despite the hurt, you teach others the meaning of trust. When you maintain hope in the face of despair, you become a beacon of light for those who feel lost. Pain also has a way of creating a connection between people. It bridges gaps, breaking down barriers of misunderstanding and judgment. When others see you walk through pain with grace, it inspires them to face their own struggles with courage. Your ability to persevere becomes a silent yet powerful testimony, teaching others that they too can survive and thrive despite adversity. Take Job, for example. His pain was unimaginable. He lost his children, his wealth, and his health. Yet through his suffering, Job's faith remained steadfast. His story has been teaching humanity for generations about the sovereignty of God, the resilience of faith, and the reward of endurance. Job's pain became a lesson not just for him, but for the countless individuals who have drawn strength from his story. Sometimes the pain you endure equips you to minister to others in a way you couldn't have otherwise. A person who has walked through the valley of grief can comfort someone mourning a loss in a way no one else can. A survivor of sickness can inspire faith in someone battling illness. A person who has faced betrayal can offer hope to those navigating broken relationships. Your scars become symbols of survival and resilience, and they remind others that healing is possible. Pain also refines you. It strips away pretense and self-reliance, forcing you to lean on God like never before. It deepens your empathy, sharpens your character, and strengthens your spirit. And as you are refined, those who observe you learn that pain is not the end of the story. They see that God can bring beauty from ashes, that he can transform sorrow into joy, and that he can use what was meant to destroy you as the very thing that elevates you. Think of the Apostle Paul. He endured beatings, imprisonment, shipwrecks, and more, yet he declared, "Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me." Paul understood that his pain was not in vain. It was a tool that God used to demonstrate his power and teach others about his sustaining grace. Your pain serves as a mirror, reflecting God's ability to bring triumph out of tragedy. When you endure with faith, it shows the world that God is faithful even in the darkest moments. It teaches others that their pain too can serve a purpose. So while pain is a mystery, it is also a gift, albeit one we would never choose for ourselves. It is a tool in the hands of a loving God, shaping you and teaching others through you. Though the process may be hard, trust that your trials are being transformed into testimonies, and your suffering is sowing seeds of hope and faith in those who are watching. Have you ever considered that your life is more than just your own story? It is a letter and epistle written by God for others to read. Just as the Bible uses words to convey the heart and mind of God, your life serves as a living message, teaching, inspiring, and guiding those who cross your path. You may not realize it, but every decision you make, every trial you endure, and every victory you celebrate is like a sentence in this divine letter. The Apostle Paul said it beautifully in 2 Corinthians 3:2-3, "You are our letter, written in our hearts, known and read by everyone." You show that you are a letter from Christ, the result of our ministry, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God. Not on tablets of stone, but on tablets of human hearts. Your life is not written in ink, it is written in action, faith, and character. God uses your experiences to craft a story that speaks to others in ways that words alone cannot. Think about the power of an example. A book can teach principles, but a life lived with integrity and purpose brings those principles to life. For instance, the Bible tells us about forgiveness, but when someone sees you forgiving an unfaithful friend or a difficult coworker, they learn what forgiveness truly looks like. The Bible teaches about faith, but when someone observes you trusting God in the midst of uncertainty, they understand faith on a deeper, personal level. Your life, like an epistle, is meant to reflect God's heart to the world. It is not just about what you say, but about how you live. People are watching. They're watching how you handle success, whether you remain humble and generous. They're watching how you face failure, whether you rise again with resilience and grace. They're watching how you treat others, whether you embody love, patience, and kindness. Your actions, more than your words, communicate the essence of who God is and what He has done in your life. Consider Jesus. While His teachings were profound, it was His life that captured the hearts of those around Him. His humility, His compassion, His unwavering obedience to the Father, these aspects of His character spoke volumes. In the same way, your life tells a story about the God you serve. You may be the only Bible some people will ever read. This doesn't mean you have to live a perfect life. Far from it. Some of the most powerful lessons come from how you handle your imperfections. When you admit your mistakes, seek forgiveness, and strive to grow, you teach others about God's grace and the power of transformation. Your vulnerability can inspire others to confront their own shortcomings and seek God's mercy. Your life as a living epistle also extends beyond words and actions to your attitude and demeanor. The peace you carry in turbulent times, the joy you exude in the midst of struggle, the hope you maintain when others see no way forward, all these are chapters in the letter God is writing through you. They speak of a power greater than yourself, pointing others to the God who sustains you. Take a moment to reflect on the lives of individuals in Scripture who served as living epistles. Ruth's loyalty to Naomi taught generations about commitment and faithfulness. David's life, with all its highs and lows, taught about repentance, worship, and God's unfailing love. Esther's courage demonstrated the power of trusting God's plan, even when the stakes are high. Each of their lives became a message, a teaching tool that continues to impact people to this day. Your life is no different. God is writing a unique story through you. The trials you face, the decisions you make, the relationships you nurture, all of these are parts of the letter that others are reading. You don't have to be in a position of authority or influence to make an impact. Sometimes the quietest, most unassuming lives speak the loudest. The beauty of being a living epistle is that you don't need to have all the answers or a flawless past. God uses ordinary people to do extraordinary things. He takes the broken pieces of your life and rearranges them into a masterpiece that reflects His glory. Your willingness to be authentic and to let God work through you makes your life a powerful testimony. So walk with the awareness that your life is always speaking. Whether through your words, your actions, or your silence, you are teaching others. Let your story point to God. Let your struggles reveal His strength. Let your victories display His faithfulness. Because every day through you, God is sending a message to the world. Faith under fire inspires. Faith is easy to profess when life is smooth and the skies are clear, but its true power is revealed in the midst of the storm. When your faith is tested, when it is placed under fire, it becomes a living testimony to those around you. People are watching how you navigate the trials of life, and your steadfastness in the face of adversity inspires them to trust God in their own challenges. Think about the imagery of fire. It refines precious metals, burning away impurities and leaving behind something stronger, pure, and more valuable. Similarly, when your faith is tested in the furnace of hardship, it shines brighter, becoming an undeniable beacon for others. They see that your faith is not just words, it is a deeply rooted trust in the God who sustains you through every trial. Consider the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These three young men stood firm in their faith, refusing to bow to an idol, even when faced with a fiery furnace. Their words were simple yet profound. The God we serve is able to deliver us, but even if he does not, we will not serve your gods. Their faith under fire was a powerful witness, not only to King Nebuchadnezzar, but to every single one of us in the Hebrew Bible. Their unwavering trust in God inspired generations to believe that God is present, even in the flames. When people see you hold on to faith in the face of hardship, it teaches them something profound. Faith is not about avoiding trials, it is about enduring them with hope. Your life becomes a living sermon, showing that God's promises are not voided by difficulty. Instead, his presence becomes even more evident in the midst of trouble. Think of Job. His life was a whirlwind of loss, pain, and despair, yet he declared, "Though he slay me, yet will I hope in him." Job's story has been an inspiration for countless believers, not because he avoided suffering, but because he clung to God through it all. His faith under fire demonstrated that God is worthy of trust, even when we don't understand his ways. Your faith under fire doesn't just strengthen others, it strengthens you. The trials you face refine your character, deepen your relationship with God, and prepare you for even greater challenges. And as you grow stronger, others watching your journey learn that faith is not fragile, it is resilient. They see that faith isn't a crutch, it's a foundation. And Paul and Silas were beaten and thrown into prison. Their response was to sing hymns and pray. Their faith in that dark, painful moment inspired the jailer and his entire household to believe in Christ. Their trial became a platform for God's power to be displayed and for lives to be transformed. In the same way, your response to hardship has the potential to lead others to the source of true hope. Your faith under fire also reminds people that they are not alone. When others see you endure, it gives them the courage to face their own battles. Your perseverance shows them that it's possible to trust God, even when life feels overwhelming. It gives them permission to believe that the same God who is holding you up will hold them up too. Sometimes you won't even realize the full extent of the inspiration you're providing. A coworker might see how you handle stress with grace. A family member might observe your peace during a crisis. A stranger might notice your calm demeanor in the face of loss. Without saying a word, your faith becomes a testimony that speaks louder than any sermon ever could. Faith under fire also amplifies the truth that God is faithful. When people see you come through the fire, not burned, but refined, they witness the reality of his promises. They learn that God doesn't always remove the storm, but he walks with us through it. They understand that trials are not the absence of God's love, but often the very stage on which his power is displayed most clearly. Your faith under fire is a reminder that God is in control, even when life feels out of control. It teaches others that their storms, though painful, are temporary. It shows them that God is not just the God of the good times. He is the God who shows up in the midnight hour. in the lion's den, in the fiery furnace. So hold on to your faith, not just for yourself, but for those who are watching. Let your endurance in hardship inspire someone else to trust God. Let your unwavering hope teach them that storms are not the end of the story, because when faith is under fire, it becomes a light that guides others through their own darkness, leading them closer to the God who is always faithful. There are battles we face that no one else can see. The sleepless nights, the silent prayers, the quiet moments of desperation. These struggles often feel deeply personal, almost hidden from the world. Yet even in these private battles, God is at work, using your perseverance as a silent lesson for someone else. You may think no one is watching, but grace has a way of making itself visible, even when the struggle is not. The strength you draw from God, the peace you carry in chaos, and the determination to keep moving forward become a testimony. Whether you realize it or not, grace has a way of spilling out of a life that leans on God. Think of Hannah in the Bible. Her struggle with infertility was deeply personal, a battle fought in the silence of her heart and in the quietness of her prayers. Yet her story has echoed through the ages as a lesson in perseverance and faith. Hannah's visible grace in her invisible struggle taught others about the power of persistent prayer and the faithfulness of God. When you face invisible struggles, your perseverance becomes a living example of what it means to trust God in the unseen. Others may not know the details, but they see the grace you carry. They notice that you continue to show up, to love, to give, and to hope, even when life feels heavy. That silent strength becomes a lesson, teaching others that God's grace is sufficient, even in the midst of hardship. Consider Jesus during his moments in Gethsemane. His agony was so intense that he sweat drops of blood. Yet even in that private, excruciating struggle, his grace was visible. His willingness to say, "Not my will, but yours be done," became a lesson for generations about surrender, obedience, and trust. His invisible struggle bore fruit that continues to nourish the faith of countless people. Your own struggles, though private, can have a similar impact. A friend may not know the full weight of what you're carrying, but they see the hope in your eyes. A co-worker might not understand your pain, but they notice your perseverance. A family member may not know the depth of your prayers, but they feel the peace that surrounds you. Your visible grace becomes a reflection of God's sustaining power, reminding others that he is present in every circumstance. It's important to remember that grace doesn't mean the absence of struggle. It means the presence of God within it. The way you handle your invisible battles, whether through quiet prayers, acts of faith, or simply holding on, teaches others about the reality of God's strength. They learn that even in the darkest moments, his light shines through. Invisible struggles also have a way of deepening your reliance on God. When no one else understands, he does. When no one else sees, he does. This dependence on him allows his grace to work more fully in your life. And that grace is what others will notice. They may not see the battle, but they will see the victory. They may not hear your cries, but they will feel the joy that comes in the morning. Think about the woman with the issue of blood. Her struggle was deeply personal, an invisible pain she had carried for 12 years. Yet her faith to reach out and touch Jesus became a lesson for everyone around her. She taught them that even private struggles can be overcome by faith. Her visible grace, shown in her determination and belief, became a testimony of God's power to heal and restore. Your perseverance in invisible struggles also teaches others about resilience. It shows them that even when life feels unbearable, it is possible to keep going. Your quiet endurance becomes a beacon of hope, reminding others that their own unseen battles are not in vain. It tells them that God is not just the God of public miracles. He is the God who meets us in the secret places where no one else can go. Every struggle you face has the potential to teach someone something about God. Even when your pain is hidden, your perseverance can inspire. Even when your prayers are whispered, your faith can move mountains. And even when your journey feels lonely, God is using it to speak to someone else, perhaps in ways you'll never know. Visible grace in invisible struggles is one of the most powerful testimonies you can offer. It says to the world, I may be walking through fire, but I am not consumed. I may be wrestling with challenges, but I am not defeated. I may be carrying burdens, but I am not abandoned. It declares that God is faithful even when life is hard, and that his grace is sufficient for every trial. Hold on to that grace. Let it shine through your perseverance. Because even in your invisible struggles, God is writing a story that others will read and learn from, drawing them closer to him. Perseverance is one of the most potent forces in a believer's life. It is the ability to stand firm, to press forward, and to remain unwavering even when circumstances try to break you. While perseverance often feels like a solitary journey, it is far more impactful than we realize. Your ability to endure becomes the foundation upon which others build their faith. Every time you choose to persevere, you are teaching a silent but powerful lesson. Faith is not fragile. It can withstand the storms of life. It can weather uncertainty, overcome obstacles, and rise above challenges. People are watching your journey and your determination to move forward, even when the road is hard, inspires them to believe that they can do the same. Consider the Apostle Paul, who endured shipwrecks, beatings, imprisonment, and constant danger. His perseverance was not just about his own faith journey. It became a testament for generations of believers. When Paul wrote, I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith, he wasn't just reflecting on his own life. He was laying a foundation for others to understand that the journey of faith is worth every trial, every sacrifice, and every moment of endurance. When you persevere through hardships, it sends a message that faith is more than a fleeting feeling. It is a choice. It is the decision to trust God, even when you don't see the full picture. That choice becomes a lighthouse for others who are navigating their own storms. They see your endurance and begin to believe that if God can sustain you, He can sustain them too. The power of perseverance is that it transforms obstacles into opportunities for growth, and growth into testimonies. Think of Ruth, who chose to persevere through loss, leaving her homeland to follow Naomi and care for her. Her unwavering commitment to her journey brought her into alignment with God's greater purpose, leading her to become part of the lineage of Jesus Christ. Ruth's perseverance teaches us that even when the path seems uncertain, enduring with faith leads to divine rewards. Your endurance also speaks volumes about the character of God. It tells others that He is a promise keeper, a sustainer, and a refuge in times of trouble. Your perseverance is living proof that God equips His children to face whatever comes their way. People may not understand the specifics of your trial, but they see the grace with which you endure. And that grace points them to the source of your strength. When you persevere, you give others permission to hope. Your life becomes a declaration that difficulties are not permanent and that faith has the power to outlast any storm. Perseverance is contagious. When people see you holding on, it ignites a spark in them to hold on as well. Even in the smallest acts, perseverance teaches powerful lessons. When you keep showing up for work despite challenges, you teach others about responsibility and faithfulness. When you continue to love in the face of rejection, you teach them about unconditional love. When you trust God in the middle of uncertainty, you teach them about the depth of His faithfulness. Think about the story of Nehemiah, who persevered in rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem despite opposition from enemies and discouragement from within. His determination inspired the people around him to keep building, to keep fighting, and to complete the work God had called them to. Nehemiah's perseverance became a catalyst for the restoration of a nation. Your ability to endure doesn't just impact you, it ripples outward. It strengthens communities, families, and friendships. It lays a foundation for future generations to build their faith upon. When others see you persevere, they understand that faith is not about avoiding hardship, but about enduring it with courage and trust in God. The power of perseverance lies in its ability to transform lives. It transforms your own life by building character, increasing your faith, and drawing you closer to God. But it also transforms the lives of those around you, giving them hope, courage, and the belief that they too can overcome. So press on. Each step you take, each challenge you overcome, and each moment you endure is not just for you, it is for those who are watching, learning, and building their faith on the foundation of your perseverance. The world is not just a place to live. It is a vast open classroom where God teaches, refines, and transforms. It is a space without boundaries, a classroom without walls, where every moment, encounter, and experience is part of His divine curriculum. And here's the remarkable thing in this classroom. You are not just a student, you are also the teacher and the lesson plan. God uses your life, your experiences, and even your challenges as tools to instruct and inspire others. Whether you realize it or not, you are part of His divine teaching strategy. Your victories become lessons of faith, your failures become lessons of grace, and your perseverance becomes lessons of strength. In this classroom, you are both the vessel and the message. both the example and the evidence of what God can do. Think about Jesus and his disciples. He didn't confine their lessons to the synagogue or the temple. Instead, he taught them in fields or mountainsides by the sea and in the midst of storms. Every moment was a teachable moment, and often the disciples themselves were the object lessons. When Peter stepped out of the boat onto the water, it wasn't just about his faith, it was about showing others what happens when you trust God beyond the natural. Your life operates in much the same way. God is continually using you to demonstrate his principles, his promises, and his power to those around you. Your interactions, choices, and responses are all part of the curriculum. When you forgive someone who hurt you, you are teaching about God's forgiveness. When you keep your faith in the face of uncertainty, you are teaching about trust. When you love unconditionally, you are teaching about the heart of God. This classroom isn't limited to sermons or structured lessons. It happens in the everyday moments of life. It happens in your workplace, your home, and your community. It happens when someone sees you respond with kindness instead of anger, or when they notice your peace in the midst of chaos. These moments become living lessons, quietly but powerfully revealing the character of God. Consider Moses leading the Israelites through the wilderness. His life was a constant lesson plan in God's classroom. From the burning bush to the parting of the Red Sea, from manna in the desert to water from the rock, every moment of Moses' journey was a teaching moment, not just for him, but for the people who were watching. Through his life, they learned about God's provision, faithfulness, and power. Your life, too, is designed to teach others. God doesn't need a pulpit to instruct, he needs a willing vessel. He uses your struggles to teach resilience, your successes to teach gratitude, and your trials to teach trust. People may not hear your words, but they will see your actions. They will watch how you live, how you handle adversity, and how you walk in faith. And those observations will speak louder than any sermon ever could. Even the mundane aspects of life are part of God's classroom. When you work diligently, you teach others about integrity. When you parent with patience, you teach about grace. When you serve without expecting recognition, you teach about humility. Every action, no matter how small, carries the potential to reveal something profound about God. The beauty of this classroom is that it is everywhere. There are no limits, no barriers, and no restrictions. The lessons are ongoing, and the students are all around you. Some may be strangers who observe you from a distance. Others may be close friends or family who are deeply impacted by the way you live your faith. Regardless of the audience, your life is a message God is continually writing and sharing. Think of the early church. Ordinary people living out their faith in extraordinary ways became the foundation of a global movement. Their lives, marked by love, sacrifice, and unwavering faith, became lessons for the world. They didn't need buildings or formal classrooms. They simply lived their lives for Christ. And in doing so, they taught others about the transformative power of God. In this divine classroom, every moment matters. Every interaction is an opportunity to teach. And while you may feel unqualified or unprepared, remember that God equips those he calls. He uses your imperfections, your growth, and your journey to reveal his truth. So step into this role with confidence, knowing that God is using your life in ways you may never fully understand. The lessons you teach might not always be immediate or visible, but they are eternal. You are both the teacher and the lesson plan, and in God's classroom without walls, your life is shaping the faith and understanding of others. Ultimately, everything in your life is designed to reveal one overarching truth, God's glory. Your journey is not just about you, it is about magnifying his sovereignty and demonstrating his divine plan to a watching world. Every step you take, every challenge you face, and every victory you achieve becomes a reflection of his power and purpose. God's glory is the ultimate destination of every believer's journey. It is the reason for creation, the foundation of redemption, and the culmination of every story he writes. Through your life, he paints a picture of his majesty wisdom, and faithfulness. And as others witness your journey, they gain clarity about his divine plan, not just for you, but for themselves and the world around them. Consider the story of Job. His journey was marked by unimaginable suffering, yet it became one of the most profound demonstrations of God's sovereignty. Job's endurance and unwavering faith amidst loss and pain revealed the depths of God's power and the immensity of his glory. Through Job's story, countless generations have come to understand that God's plans are far greater than human comprehension, and his purposes are always for good, even when they are hidden in the moment. Your own journey carries a similar weight. People may not see every detail of what you go through, but they see the results. They see how God brings beauty from ashes, joy from sorrow, and purpose from pain. These transformations are not random, they are intentional revelations of his glory. They show that God is sovereign over every situation, that nothing escapes his control, and that he is always working for the good of those who love him. Every time you trust God in uncertainty, his glory is revealed. It shows others that he is dependable, that his promises are true, and that his character is unchanging. When you find peace in the midst of chaos, it points to a God who is greater than circumstances. When you experience breakthrough after seasons of waiting, it magnifies his faithfulness and perfect timing. Think of Joseph, who endured betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment before rising to a position of authority in Egypt. His journey was not just about his personal success, it was about revealing God's sovereignty. Joseph himself acknowledged this when he said to his brothers, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done." The saving of many lives, Joseph's life, illuminated God's ability to weave even the most painful moments into a tapestry of divine purpose. Your story is part of that same tapestry. It adds depth and color to the larger picture of God's glory being revealed on earth. As people watch your journey, they begin to see his hand at work, not just in your life, but in their own as well. Your story becomes a lens through which they can view his sovereignty, his grace, and his love. Even your weaknesses and struggles serve this purpose. God often chooses to display his glory most powerfully in areas where we feel least capable. As Paul wrote, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." When you overcome challenges or rise above limitations, it is not just a testament to your strength, it is a testament to his. It shows others that his power is enough, even in our frailty. God's glory is not confined to moments of triumph. It is also revealed in the way you walk through trials, the way you hold on to faith when answers are delayed, and the way you find hope in what seems hopeless. These moments magnify his sovereignty by demonstrating that he is in control, even when life feels out of control. The journey of Jesus himself was the ultimate revelation of God's glory. From his humble birth to his sacrificial death and triumphant resurrection, every moment of his life pointed to the Father's sovereign plan. Jesus' willingness to endure the cross revealed the depth of God's love and the magnitude of his redemptive power. Through him, we see that God's glory is not just about majesty and might, it is also about mercy, grace, and the restoration of all things. Your journey, though unique, follows the same pattern. It reveals to others that God is both transcendent and personal, both powerful and compassionate. It shows them that he is not distant or detached, but intimately involved in every detail of life. As others witness your journey, they begin to understand that their own lives are part of something greater. Your story becomes a reminder that God's plans are never random, his timing is never late, and his purposes are always good. It inspires them to trust him more fully, to seek him more deeply, and to surrender their lives to his divine plan. In every high and every low, every triumph and every trial, God's glory is being revealed through you. It is a light that shines in the darkness, a beacon that draws others toward him, and a testimony that his sovereignty is unshakable and his love is unfailing. Your life magnifies his greatness and brings clarity to the divine masterpiece he is unfolding for the world to see. As we bring this powerful message to a close, let us take a moment to reflect on the profound truth that has echoed throughout this entire journey. Your life is not just a series of random events or a collection of experiences. It is a divine narrative, meticulously crafted by God to reveal His glory, fulfill His purpose, and teach others the lessons of faith, hope, and grace. Your life in its most authentic form is a testament to the sovereignty of God and the power of His unending love. Through your struggles, you teach perseverance. Every hardship you endure is not a defeat, but a lesson in endurance. When life pushes you down and yet you rise again, you are teaching others how to stand tall in the face of adversity. When you face opposition and refuse to quit, you are showing the world that faith is not the absence of struggle, but the courage to press on despite it. Through your faith under fire, you inspire others to trust in God during their own storms. It's one thing to have faith when things are going well, but it's another to trust God when everything seems to be falling apart. Your unwavering belief in the midst of hardship becomes a living example to others, showing them that God is faithful even when the answers don't come immediately. In your redemption, you reveal God's miraculous power to restore, renew, and transform. The world sees your story, and through it, they witness the deep, unshakable love of a God who never gives up on His people. Your life, your journey from brokenness to healing becomes a living proof of His ability to take what is lost and make it whole. Every scar, every wound becomes a testimony of His healing grace. In your victories, you magnify His grace. When you experience breakthroughs, triumphs, and successes, it is not just about your efforts, it is about His hand at work in you. Your success becomes a reflection of God's goodness, showing others that it is only by His strength and favor that you have overcome. Your life becomes an invitation for others to step into that same grace, knowing that with God, all things are possible. You are not just living for yourself. You are living as a vessel, a teacher, and a lesson plan for those around you. You are part of God's grand curriculum, teaching lessons without ever saying a word. Every action, every choice, every interaction becomes an opportunity to instruct others on how to live, how to love, and how to trust in the God who holds it all together. This is God's classroom without walls, the world around you, and in this classroom, you are both the teacher and the lesson. And even when you don't feel like you have anything to teach, remember this: God uses your imperfections to display His glory. He takes your weaknesses, your struggles, your mistakes, and turns them into a powerful narrative of redemption. The very areas where you feel least qualified or most vulnerable are the places where His power shines brightest. Your life becomes a lesson that God's grace is sufficient, that His strength is made perfect in your weakness. It's important to remember that God uses every part of your journey, the ups and the downs, the moments of doubt and the moments of faith, the times of joy and the seasons of pain. Nothing is wasted in His divine plan. Every trial you face, every setback, every success is part of a bigger picture, a picture that reveals His glory, His sovereignty, and His love. Through your life, others will see God at work, not just in your life, but in their own. They will be inspired to trust, to hope, and to believe that the same God who has been faithful to you will be faithful to them. And ultimately, that is the key truth we must hold on to. Your journey magnifies God's sovereignty. Everything you go through, everything you overcome, everything you experience is part of a divine narrative that brings clarity to His eternal plan. Your life points to the bigger picture of God's purpose for this world. It is a constant reminder that He is in control, that His timing is perfect, and that He is always working things together for good. Your life is a living testament that God's plan is always greater than our understanding. His glory is revealed not just in our victories, but in our trials. His sovereignty is demonstrated not only in moments of success, but also in times of suffering. Through you, God is making His wisdom, power, and grace visible to the world. And as others witness His work in your life, they are invited into a deeper relationship with Him, into the revelation of His divine plan for their own lives. So walk boldly in your purpose. Live your life with the understanding that you are part of something much bigger than yourself. Your journey is revealing God's glory to a world that needs to see it. Every step you take, every challenge you face, every victory you celebrate is part of a divine purpose. As others witness the work God is doing in you, they are drawn closer to Him. And they too will begin to see their own lives as part of His larger plan. Know this: God is using your life to teach, to inspire, and to reveal His glory. And in doing so, you are not just living for today, you are impacting eternity.